สวัสดีครับ I'm Point from ค้นพบ So this week I just started reading this wonderful book right here called How to Win Friends and Influence People, written by Dale Carnegie. Now, although this book was published back in 1936, I still think that the principles laid out here still ring very true and are still very valid and are still very applicable even in today's modern world. And I highly recommend you to pick this book up, especially if you are looking to develop your communication skills or your interpersonal relationship skills, in other words, your people skills. Why? Because the book does such a great job in explaining how we humans operate, how we work, what motivates us, what are we driven by, our desires that are the fundamental driving factors for our behaviors. And once we're able to understand that, it helps us be better able to step out of our own perspective and try to see things from the other person's perspective in order to understand them more. And once you're able to understand them more, you will naturally be less judgmental, and it will lead to more kindness, compassion, and this sense of understanding. In other words, the ability to see things from their perspective and fuse it with your own perspective. Of course, that's going to lead to effective communication skills, and it will help cultivate much more meaningful relationships, much more meaningful connections with other people. So making friends isn't about making the most number of friends, but it's about making meaningful connections, meaningful relationships that are based on genuine sincerity. You are genuine in your desire to connect with them. You want to uplift them and bring value to them because you understand them more, right? And because I just started reading this book, I have not finished it yet. So today I want to review the first part called The Fundamental Techniques in Handling People, and that is divided into 3 principles, which I think are really worth mentioning in today's videos. So the first principle in this book is don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Sounds obvious, right? Yeah, come on, I know this. I'm not going to criticize or condemn another person. Sounds obvious, but it's easier said than done. In practice, this is very hard because what? Because the ego gets in the way. Our ego gets in the way. When we get upset by somebody's wrong behavior or mistakes, we tend to take it personal, we get angry, and we want to just let them have it. And we feel justified in our criticism. We feel justified to, ridicule them, to yell at them, to tell them why they are wrong and why you're right. See? But here's the insight. Human beings, we think that we are creatures of logic, but we're really not. We're creatures of emotions. So from your perspective, when you want to criticize the other person, you might feel justified in doing so because you think that you're being logical. Okay, Mr. A, let's say your employee or your son or your brother or your romantic partner, you want to correct that person, right? Say, okay, here's why you're wrong. Reason A, B, C, D, E. And here's why I'm right. 1, 2, 3, 4. And here's what you need to change about yourself in order to solve the problem, right? And we'll criticize them because we feel justified to be critical, to be harsh, to present the truth as we see it. And we think that that's going to get them to be, oh, okay, I see where I'm wrong here, get them to self-reflect and hopefully change their behavior. Would that really work? Oftentimes, probably not. Most times, this will be much more futile than productive. It will perhaps and oftentimes not even correct the problem or correct the behavior which the criticism was intended to do in the first place. Why is that so? Again, we humans are creatures of emotion. We are not creatures of logic. When you criticize somebody else, you by default, you put them on the defensive. And nobody likes to feel like their back is against the wall and they are cornered now. And once we are put on the defense, naturally we will strive to justify ourselves. Because what? Because our precious pride has been hurt. So let's say you criticize me. By nature, I need to protect that pride that has been hurt. By nature, I need to protect that sense of self-importance. Because when you criticize me, you put that at risk. You attack that directly. And it will lead me to feel resentment towards you. And that will demoralize me, and that will be counterproductive, especially if you're looking to build meaningful connections and a long-term productive working relationship. Say if you are a manager or a boss and you need to correct something that your employee or your subordinate is doing wrong. Or even if you're just a father or a mother who is trying to get through to your son or daughter to correct their behavior, right? So criticism is often futile. Because what? I've said this in my previous videos, it's the ego. Human beings, even if we are wrongdoers, we will tend to blame other people and not blame ourselves. We will tend to project outwards because it's the ego's defense mechanism. We are always striving to protect our sense of self, our me structure, our self-image, our self-concept, the idea of who we think, who we feel, who we believe we are, which is a concept that lives in our mind. We must strive to protect that. And when we get criticized, that is hurt, and therefore we must protect it oftentimes by projecting outwards and blaming you instead, right? Blaming the other person instead, not accepting what is being criticized. So here you go, that's human nature 101. We want to protect our sense of pride, our sense of self-importance. So in this regard, criticism is going to be much more futile. And even if it gets you to solve the problem in the short term, it's not going to be productive in the long run. Why? Because the moment, say, you're the boss, or you're the father, or you're the mother, the moment you criticize them, they might comply with you because you are the authority figure. But the moment you turn your back on the situation, what? They're going to do the same thing again, because they have resentment towards you, right? That's the key. And I want to borrow a quote from Benjamin Franklin, which was mentioned in the book. Benjamin Franklin, he used to be a very skillful diplomat sent to France, US ambassador to France, for his wonderful skills in dealing with people. And he said this, he said, "I will speak ill of no man and speak all the good I know of everybody." Now that is so true. Again, this is easier said than done. In practice, it is hard. Why? Because anybody can criticize. It's easy to find flaws in a situation. It's easy to find flaws in the other person. It's easy to find fault. It's easy to judge. It's easy to get upset about something that doesn't go our way. But it takes character and it takes self-control in order to be forgiving and understanding, in order to be able to see things first from their perspective, irregardless of how silly or how much of a mistake you may feel they have done, right? So again, don't criticize, don't condemn, don't complain. It's often going to be much more futile, and it will lead them to be on the defensive. It will lead them to self-justify. They must protect their sense of pride, and they must justify themselves, and it will lead to resentment. So not effective in winning over friendship or influencing people or getting them to work with you or building meaningful and genuine connections with other people. Principle number 2, give honest and sincere appreciation. This is really important and it cannot be understated. Again, just like principle number 1, it seems easy, it seems obvious, right? But in practice, it's way harder to do. The reason is this. We are often stuck in our own perspective. That's why it's hard. We have to understand that one of the biggest drives for human behavior is we all desire to feel great. We all desire to be important. And even the book, as a matter of fact, the book even uses the word craving. We all crave to be appreciated. That desire is so deep in us that you can even call it a craving. Appreciation is therefore very powerful to motivate and uplift other people, and therefore is the first step, one of the first steps in building a meaningful connection with somebody, in building a genuine and authentic and sincere connection to somebody, whether it's your coworker, colleague, family member, romantic partner, employee, subordinate, or even your boss, right? But here's the key. Appreciation must be genuine. It must come from the heart. It cannot be flatter. Flatter is insincere. Flattering is fake. People can feel that. So the book does a great job saying this. Flattering comes from the teeth, but appreciation comes from the heart. Flattering is selfish. Appreciation is unselfish. So in order to learn to cultivate the ability to see something positive in other people, to be able to appreciate them and be grateful for them, I think in my own take on this is to practice gratitude. Because gratitude helps you to look for things which you are grateful for in your own life. And it helps you to look in a positive direction about things that you still have, that no matter how bad your day is, or no matter how bad the circumstances may seem, or no matter how difficult the situation is, there's still always something you can be grateful for. Say your health, you're still alive, right? You may have a bad day, but you're still alive. You're still okay. You still have people that love you. You still are able to love other people. You're still able to have a healthy body, and therefore, the ability to work towards your goals and your dreams. Once you practice gratitude, it helps you to look in a positive frame of mind, and it helps you to look at things through the lens of appreciation. And you will be able to see that in other people, even if they have done you wrong, even if they have done something bad in your perspective. Now, again, I want to stress this point that that the desire to be important and the desire to be great is so deeply rooted that, as a matter of fact, it drives some people to go insane. The book uses a story from one of these psychiatric patients, where this lady, she was unloved by her husband. She was neglected by her husband, and the husband, as a matter of fact, even refused to eat dinner with her. So she did not have that, and she wanted kids. She wanted to have children, but the husband refused. In her own twisted way, in order to get some feeling of importance or some feeling of being great, she eventually deluded herself and fed herself or brainwashed herself into believing that she was married to some fancy aristocrat from England or something like that, if I remember correctly, and that her name is Lady Smith, and that she has new children with this ideal guy every night. And she believes this. So she literally went insane, but if you really look at it, she didn't go insane overnight or for no good reason, but she went insane because there was a deep drive there, a deep desire to be great or to be important. So if you understand this, imagine what sincere appreciation to others can do for them. And it's funny because most of us listening to this will be like, yeah, I sort of get the idea here. But you know what? For some weird reason, we've been led to behave in society in a way where we never really give compliments or give our words of appreciation or show our gratitude when somebody does something good, but we're just so quick to point out when a flaw has been made, a mistake has been made, or something has been done incorrectly or done wrongly, right? So that's really interesting to notice. We know this very well, but it's hard to embody, and 90% of the time we will forget this principle and throw it out the window. But again, appreciation. Once you're able to really make the other person feel a sincere appreciation from you, you will be so amazed by the way they will react to you. They will want to work with you more. They will want to connect with you more. They will want to do things. Say if it's your employee, they will be motivated to work harder for you because they feel that genuine touch of of human connection. And at the end of the day, isn't that what we all long for? So appreciation. But I must stress, as the book does, is appreciation, not flattering. It must be authentic. It must be sincere. It must be genuine. It must come from the right place in the heart. It must not be for selfish reasons. It's an end in itself. I look at it that way. That's my take on it. Think of it as an end in itself. You are showing the other person appreciation just because it's like a gift that you can give from one human, from you, to another human. You're not looking to do this to get them to do something for you. You don't even think that far. The act of showing your gratitude to them, the act of showing your appreciation to them is in itself an end. So that's really insightful, I think, and I just want to add that take. And again, to be able to do so, you must cultivate a gratitude practice. Try to be grateful for all the small things you have in life. You're going to work, okay, the traffic's bad. What can you be grateful in that moment of time? Okay, you're late for work. It's a rainy day. You've had a bad day. You've had a long day. What can you be grateful for at the end of the day? Practicing gratitude helps you to see good in other people. And once you come from an authentic and genuine place in the heart, you'll be much more effective in your ability to communicate to other people and to give them understanding, see things from their perspective, and give them a genuine compliment of appreciation, because that's what we all long for. Principle number 3, arouse in the other person an eager want. What this really shows is that the book is trying to show that to influence other people, first of all, talk about things in terms of what they want and show them how to get it. Don't start a conversation about me, right? If you're the boss, don't go, I need you to do this for me. But you have to show them why that act is going to be beneficial to them, why they want to do it. The book does a great job in illustrating that every act that we do pretty much stems from some sort of behavioral function in which we want to do it. We do things because we wanted something. Now, to be very clear here, this is not about being manipulative. This is about thinking in terms of win-win. The book didn't go into detail about that, but I think that's what the book is trying to say, so that's my take on it. It's about thinking in terms of win-win. How can you provide value to the other person so that you can both mutually benefit from the exchange or the interaction, right? Say if you're the boss and your employee has so many things that you need him or her to get done, right? If you approach them in a mean or stressed out demeanor, get this done for me by the end of the day, A, B, C, D, E, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, how do you think that's going to be received in comparison? Say, hey, show them a sense of appreciation and that, hey, I know you've had a long day, I know this is a lot to ask for, but hey, this is for the team, and I think that you'll find value from doing this too, and it would mean a lot to me if you do it. Something like that, right? So always think in terms of providing value to the other person first. Thinking win-win. See it from their perspective. Understand it's going to be hard. You're asking a lot, but that perhaps there's something that they can also benefit from it too, right? So always think win-win. Always try to see it from their perspective. Again, this is much easier said than done because what? Because by nature, we're always judgmental. We're unable to step outside our own perspective and see things from their perspective. And we're not able to anticipate what would be beneficial to them as well. How can we first deliver value to them, whether it's a small amount or a big amount, before we get to have a mutual benefit in this exchange or transaction? Even in a manager to a employee working relationship is still a transaction. The manager needs to get the employee to do something for them, correct? But do you think you're going to motivate them by, throwing them a difficult list of to-do things, a to-do list, or do you think you're going to motivate them more positively if you're able to get them to see why doing that would arouse a sense of enthusiasm or a sense of feeling important in them? That perhaps they feel that they are contributing to the organization and that their work is valuable. They're not just a tool. You see where I'm going here? People don't want to feel like they are just a tool. They want to feel like they're able to contribute something positive to the team. We all have a longing desire to contribute, to feel important, to feel great. So if you're able to see it from their perspective, you understand this with compassion, and you won't treat people, you will not look at people as a tool, and you will not treat them like a tool. You will treat them like a teammate, even if you're a manager or if you're a boss. And I think that's really insightful. So this is not about manipulation. This is about thinking win-win. How can you provide value to others in order to get a mutually beneficial exchange here. And to illustrate this point, I want to borrow a quote from Henry Ford that the book mentioned. So let me open it up real quick. And I think I really, really love this quote. It's so good, so I want to mention it again. Henry Ford said, "If there is any one secret of success, it lies in the ability to get the other person's point of view and see things from that person's angle as well as from your own." So, isn't that powerful? It seems so cool, right, to be able to understand this. But again, in practice, it's going to be harder to do because it takes deliberate practice. Because what? Our ego, our judgment gets in the way. Human nature, we tend to think about ourselves, which is why principle number 3 is important. 95% of the time, when we're not doing work, we'll probably think about ourselves, right? We probably are thinking about, something about ourselves. So, in order to really understand this, you have to think from the other person's perspective. And that means stepping outside your own perspective, stepping outside your own wants for the moment, stepping outside judgment, dropping judgment, and trying to see things from their perspective, why they want this, why they behave the way they do, why they do the things they do. And that's easier said than done. But he who can do this will be a really, really effective person in their ability to communicate well and to arouse a sense of enthusiasm and positive team spirit in other people. And I think that's a really, really important point to bring up in today's video. And to tie all these 3 principles together, again, don't criticize, show appreciation, and try to see things from their perspective. Think in terms of how you can bring value to them before you ask something in return, irregardless if you're the boss or if you're just a colleague, right? Or if it's even in a family relationship. How do you tie this together? To really embody these principles, we have to work on our egos. We have to develop a sense of compassion and understanding for the people. Stop before you are tempted to jump the gun and criticize the other person. Sit down, take a deep breath, let it sit, think about it first. Try to think about it from their perspective first. And even if you have found that conclusion, then ask yourself, how can you engage more constructively? Even if you think the other person has made something terribly wrong or made a big mistake, instead of letting them have it, can you ask yourself, how will you approach them in a way that would encourage them to develop themselves and do this better next time so that they don't make the same mistake again? For example, instead of yelling at them or criticizing them, try to start like this. Tell them that, hey, look, I know this has happened. It's in the past now, and trust me, I've been there before. I've made those mistakes before, but can you look at it from this perspective? So if you start like that, what you're doing is you're offering them understanding and compassion. You're not judging them. You're not criticizing them. You're not putting them against the wall, because you're being humble in your approach, because you're telling them that, look, I've made these mistakes too, and it's normal and natural to make these mistakes. But let's try to work on ourselves. Let's try to be better. Let's try to do this better next time. And that arouses a sense of enthusiasm and willingness to cooperate, because that statement already hides in itself a sense of appreciation. You appreciate that they are a part of your team, and therefore, even if they have made a mistake, you're not going to speak ill of it. You're not going to criticize them. You're going to give them a chance. And people will be motivated by that. And I think that if there's anything to take away from this first part of the book, is this principle right here. So I want to share it in today's video. Let me know what you think in the comments, what you found most insightful in this review / my own take on it. And again, if you really are looking to develop your communication skills, I highly recommend you to pick this book up and start and read it yourself, because it's really, really insightful, and you can keep on revisiting it over and over and over again. Because the principles seem easy in theory, but in practice it's hard because of our personal emotions, our ego, and our personal judgments. So that's it for now. Thank you very much for watching. Please like the video and share the video for me if you found it was valuable, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit the bell notification button if you're watching on YouTube, or like my Facebook page Konpop on Facebook if you're watching on Facebook. That's it for now. I'll see you next time. Good luck with this work. Again, always remind yourself of this stuff. Always try to see things from the other person's perspective. And the moment that you can fuse their perspective and their wants and their needs with that of your own, that's the number one takeaway from this book, or at least this first part. I think it'll help you be much more effective in your ability to handle other people. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. สวัสดีครับ